Stop the cap.
So I've been trying to do some behind the scenes research um, with a woman who is a model or was a model. I don't think she's doing a whole bunch of modeling anymore. She might do some smaller stuff with her IG, social media, stuff like that. She's got some nice pictures posted. I will not be posting, any of her content, but Captain Solo and I, we've been having these ongoing discussions about this whole thing about value and colorism, and Cap has, his very, very strong beliefs about colorism and black men not valuing black women. I mean, they both these things go one and the same. It's not even really just about color. It can be about featureism. It can be about just believing that other races of women look better, which at that point the conversation is over. We discussed both black men and black women masking whatever other issues they have behind those things. Like, example, black women will mask their lack of value when it comes to black male leadership, and them not wanting to follow black men behind other things, right? Oh, you haven't won a race war or something like that. Black men will hide, the black women don't want to follow model, or they'll hide the fact that, you got guys that just don't find black women attractive, and they'll hide it behind black women's attitudes and everything else, right? This is what the colorism camp, wants to argue, right? So the woman that's this, or was this model, I just ran a couple scenarios past her, because she's like level-headed, and she doesn't have a whole bunch of she's not like a lot of the women that you deal with online. You can talk to her. I want to pick your brain. She's somewhat of an intellectual, and I gave her a couple days to think about why these things are happening. But she conceded to two of my points, two primary areas of discussion that I've made, and that is that black women have a problem with there being a standard that a standard of black beauty being established. And she actually used one of my lines against me. I forgot I even said it to her, which is where I said that white women basically don't have anywhere to go when somebody calls them ugly, because there is a standard of white beauty, that it, like, example, like white women, white men, treat white women that are overweight. I mean, they don't tolerate that shit. We all know that. When it comes to the promotion of white women's, standard of beauty, like, white women know that they got to keep their weight down if they want to be valued by white men at the collective level. But if a white woman is hit, if she's unattractive, she can't blame it on colorism. She has nothing to blame it on. But for black women, they can blame it on, colorism, white supremacy. They can blame it on that. Like, there's no such thing as a black woman can be ugly, but there's no such thing as an ugly black woman, because it's not really that she's unattractive. It's white supremacy. It's brainwashing. It's the media. It's the propaganda, right? And all that is there. All that exists. So you can't outright deny it. You can't say that it doesn't exist. You can't say that the beauty standards, aren't skewed. But, as a woman who modeled, like, she knows that there's, certain standard things that are in place. One of the things that she did acknowledge is she acknowledged the whole thing about the white woman dipped in chocolate. She said black women that are dark skinned that are dark skinned and have, quote unquote, white features, they don't catch hell like black women who are dark skinned and have, what would be considered more African features. They don't catch hell like that. She said, as a matter of fact, it's almost a bonus, because people see it as, unique and rare, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of East African women get elevated, because they're basically seen as white women dipped in chocolate. They have the aesthetics of whites and Arabs, phenotypically, for a good portion of the population, but they're still, dark skin, right? So, or brown skin, whichever one. But we talked about that a little bit. But the other thing that she agreed with me on is she agreed with black women presenting generally unattractive women when they do their little self-hate litmus test. Because I was like, what's up with that? Like, why is it that they always present, like, your, India Arie, Whoopi Goldberg, Viola Davis, right? Like, they always present these women, you know what I mean? And I don't want to, like, I don't want to dog those women out, but the fact of the matter is there are far more attractive black women that are out there, but black women never present those women. Like, you never hear black women go, Ryan Destiny versus Alicia Keys. No, it was India Arie versus Alicia Keys. I understand the timing was different, and Alicia Keys is older, and India Arie is old. I get all that. You know what I mean? And one of the things that I tried to explain to Cap is I understand the category of black woman that black women want to see elevated. And it typically are the women that are considered, conventionally unattractive. I don't know any other way to put that. The black women who look like, that look like Celie, right? Celie in The Color Purple, played by Whoopi Goldberg, as opposed to the other woman in The Color Purple. And I mean, like, you can see it. Like, it wasn't even all that lighter, but you could see this sort of, I don't know, it's like a I don't want to say it's a watered down version of a black woman, but that's how we interpret it. That's how the society interprets it. Less offensively black features. But I get into arguments with Captain Solo, about this, when it comes to certain women and other people, they take issue with it as well, because they feel like, anytime a black woman is beautiful, then her features get attributed to some other group. And I totally feel them on that, right? I totally feel them on that. But by the same token, why is it whenever there's a self-hate litmus test, right? Like, people that come with the, we come in all, not even the we shades and colors, but we come in all different looks and appearances, and the black community isn't a monolith. But it's a monolith when it comes down to the self-hate litmus test. Right? The only the India Aries will be thrown up. When women are trying to corner a black man with a self-hate litmus test. Right? And then the other thing is like, when it comes to women like Meghan Markle, and remember Tyrese's, ex-wife Samantha Gibson, which was her name at the time, right? It's like, depending on who the woman's with, she becomes an honorary black woman. So Meghan Markle, because she's with Prince Harry, black women are running around Essence magazine, black queen. But then Tyrese, a dark-skinned black man, being with Samantha Gibson, suddenly, she's, he's colorist, and, this is just another example of colorism, and she's not a black woman, and black men are trying to replace black women, but yet they'll call Meghan Markle, a black queen, right? Another thing that they'll do is, like, they'll take Meghan Markle, who, again, any other time is, the face of colorism, and that's the woman that black men will thirst, and they'll leap over India Arie, and they'll leap over, all of these, dark-skinned black women, right? But then they'll take Meghan Markle, and if Meghan Markle was to go up in a beauty contest against a white woman, then they'll use Meghan Markle. Then Meghan Markle becomes the beautiful black woman. I remember they used to do this with Vanessa Williams, right? Like, Vanessa Williams, you go and you look at, what she looks like. I mean, a rock's throw away from being a white woman. And yet Vanessa Williams wins, beauty pageant, and then people will run around, right? Is it Vanessa Williams? Is that the woman I'm thinking about with the light eyes and all that other shit from, like, back in the day? I think it's Vanessa Williams. But anyway, Vanessa Williams is a black woman, right? Jane Kennedy. You go back and look at Jane Kennedy, and, like, even I'm just sitting there like, huh? I'm like, y'all really tried to pass this? Like, when you got a woman like, Bria Sykes, and then you got Jane Kennedy, like, stark contrast from one another. But even, like, Bria Sykes, like, there'll be women like Stan Bria Sykes and her beauty next to, India Arie. Is India Arie a less attractive woman than Bria Sykes? I'd assume that 90% of people would think so, right? But then there'll be people who argue that Bria Sykes is it's because her features are smaller, compared to India Arie. So like everything is kind of relative, right? It's all relative. And see, Cap doesn't play that game. Cap is like, this is a black woman, non-racially ambiguous, good enough. And again, it's like everybody is really terrified of establishing black beauty. Black women most certainly don't want black men to do it because they think that what we will present will exclude them. And in some cases, even I would argue that they're right. Right? But then black women don't want to establish black beauty because they feel that they would exclude themselves. So it's like almost for the same reasons. I remember I asked this question years ago, and I had a few black women who came out and acknowledged it. I remember Afro Babe acknowledged it, where she, like, when it came to like women that black women thought were beautiful, like in magazines, they were never the women that they would use for a self-hate litmus test against black men. It's always, women that essentially sort of don't look like them. And part of the problem for us is black people, we have this, we come in all shades and colors bullshit, which would, really establishing a beauty standard will require a reorganization of the race. And a lot of people seemingly don't want to do that. Right? And one of the things that I had to, come to terms with, because Cap used to always, and he still does, he slams me over the, with the whole India Arie versus, not Amber Rose, India Arie versus Alicia Keys thing, because back then I was like, well, I guess I'm self-hating. And Cap, he knew that the contest was bullshit. And this is the mistake that a lot of brothers make, because we don't have, tens, black women who are tens, who are evidently black, unambiguously black, in our back pocket. We don't keep them on deck, and primarily we don't keep them on deck because, truth be told, for a lot of us, they're not the fantasy women. The fantasy women, for a lot of black men, ends up starting outside the community. And I don't think that was something that happened overnight. I think that's something that happened gradually, especially with social media and the accessibility. And again, I remember the transition. Now, colorism may have always been a thing in the black community and goes, way back. But, the whole explosion of the expansion of the light skin universe to where black men not only, saw these women, and then black men were thrust into the mainstream, and so they were getting the attention of these women, with the music and entertainment and all that other stuff, but also the accessibility via social media and all that, being able to slide in DMs and have that sort of access. And so I think, that changed the game. But one of the things I had to, getting away from myself, one of the things I had to acknowledge, to Cap was, when it came to, when women would present these self-hate litmus tests, like, again, I know the category of black women they want to find, attractive. You know what I mean? And I'm saying, I could go out there and find, a woman, like, example, like I would use like Jill Marie Jones, right? As opposed to using India Arie, right? Same general feature set, same skin complexion. I'm taking Jill Marie Jones over India Arie all day, right? But so then this is where the whole ugly girl argument, came up, because it was like, are you trying to get black men to prefer or like black women, or put black women as the forefront, or challenge conventional ideas of white beauty standards with black women? Or are you trying to get unattractive women to be attractive when they're not attractive? And again, since we haven't established what black beauty is, it ends up being a problem. And I'm not gonna lie, I was affected by, the way that black women have always presented the self-hate litmus test, which is they always present women who are generally unattractive. Like, this is what black women look like. And then you know, I'm sitting there thinking like, well, goddamn. I mean, in other words, everything that I do like, black women will say is exceptional. Like, Six the Goddess is exceptional. I can't make Six the Goddess the standard for black women, right? She's just in this exceptional box. And then it goes, oh, well, if you only like the exceptional black women, then I guess you don't like black women, right? And so you end up with this, well, most black women look like this, and they'll give you like 5 black women, and all of them are generally unattractive. Or it's not even that they're generally unattractive. Another thing that black women do is they always put these women up against perfect other races of women. The Latina that they're challenging you against with the self-hate litmus test, she's not even a 10, she's an 11, right? And then she'll have the whole ambiance, everything, the outfit, the legs out, the heels, the makeup is slamming, the hair is done. I mean, the bitch is bad. She's half naked, you know what I mean? But then, when they present their, a black woman that they want you to choose, it'll be just a headshot, or it'll be, a woman in like a sweater, you know what I mean, looking like, she's I don't know, a 7-day Adventist or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, but you gonna put her up against this spicy Latina and then be like, and you must choose? Like, that's bullshit. But that's what they do. And you get that enough to catch that enough times. And I keep, one of the things I have to emphasize, Captain Solo, as a black man, as an actual black man, I know he's gonna be like, that's fucked up, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, as a black man, that's not a light-skinned dude, that's not a racially ambiguous dude, you know what I mean? The energy that you get coming from black women and the litmus test that they try against you is completely different than what Captain Solo, would be presented with as a rule, even though he has been presented with, some bullshit. I mean, he's even shown women some of his exes, and women, they were trying to, shoot that down and basically say, yes, the women that they're evidently black, but, women were finding them unattractive. And this is a man, Captain Solo is a man that he, his mother removed all whatever arrogance that he might have had about his looks. And he's the same way about that when it comes to black women. So, the irony is there's black women that will look at the women that he was dating and the women that he was interested in, because he wasn't so hyper focused on beauty, and they will shoot the shit down. They will sit there and look at the woman and be like, I mean, she's all right. It's like, goddamn. Damn it, maybe I should be over there with Pete and his extreme standards of beauty. Oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure I got a troll in my comment section, and be careful of this, right? Because we've been talking about YouTube bots and shit like that. Okay, I posted that picture of what was the name? What's the name of the woman? The picture of Buffy the Body, right? Because I didn't know she was that skinny when she was younger. And I was just blown away at how she, I'm like, bet you would never guess who this is. That's why I posted the shit. I didn't say nothing about her beauty, her looks, nothing. Buffy the Body, for a long time was, the standard of black beauty, for, black men. I don't want to say black men in an urban environment, but a more realistic, closer to what black men are into when it comes to being into dark-skinned women. And one of the things that I don't like about, like, example, like Keke Palmer and a lot of the black women that get kind of propped up in the mainstream is they're not what a lot of black men would necessarily go for. Not saying that Keke Palmer is not attractive. I do think she looks better after the baby. But what I'm saying is, a lot of black men would go for a woman who's a little bit more, curvy, not necessarily the girl next door. I don't agree with brothers that like all these like porn star looking sisters with the laid down baby edges and whatnot. But I'm just saying, a lot of times white Hollywood picks the one or two that they throw up there. They pick women that, I wouldn't necessarily go for. Right. And, They even tend to do this with white women, where they go off and they get these like prepubescent, boyish, white women. Like even when you see like the white women that walk the runway, white women that walk the runway, with the exception of like Victoria's Secret models, most white men, that would not be their first choice. But like because they're in the spotlight, like women in society will be like, oh my god, they're so beautiful, and it's like the bitch looks like an alien. No. You know what I'm saying? Like the bitch looks like she was doing drugs last night. You ever notice that they always get these white women that look like they're pretty heroin addicts. they always throw that shit up there, But the thing is oh, and I remember, like, even I was going to mention, like, Karazin, like, when she pulled that bullshit with Amber Rose, and she was like, look at that African booty, going to the, taking, because Kanye left, Amber Rose for Kim Kardashian, Karazin saw it as an opportunity to springboard and attack and say that, it was argued that Kanye was a colorist before, right? But now Amber Rose becomes an honorary black woman and the blackest woman on the planet because Kanye left Kim Kardashian for Amber Rose. And you're sitting there, you're like, huh? Now she's the blackest woman in the world? And it's these sorts of like tricks that black women do. That shouldn't faze black men. Black men should ignore that and again have these women, in their back pocket. But I think it comes down to the fact that these women are not, these men's, fantasies. And one of the things, like one of the like litmus tests I threw at Captain Solo is, and this is why the presenting of a 10 is so important. This goes back to the guy that I think is trolling, because when I put up that Buffy the Body post, I had a guy that was like, oh, she's a 5 out of 10. And I don't know whether this is the whites. Now that I've watched a couple of Tariq Nasheed, I'm like, oh, these white boys are trolling. So I don't know whether it's a white person, a white guy trying to like throw a monkey wrench in these conversations, or whether it's a black woman trying to throw monkey wrenches in the conversation. I don't know why black women do that. But then again, it makes sense if they don't want there to be a standard. They want to say it's always self-hatred and colorism and all that other stuff. That way, if a black woman is truly unattractive, she can never lose. And not in her mind. In her mind, she always has some sort of justification. Rather than just say, oh, I'm actually only a 4 or I'm actually only a 5, right? When we have these discussions about, pretty privilege and women who have pretty privilege, right? Because it's like, how can pretty privilege be a thing in the black community if I guess they would argue, they would say it's colorism because the only women that are seen as pretty in the black community are women that are light-skinned, which is bullshit. But that'll be their argument. I think a lot of people run around with the concept that, dark-skinned women, and maybe it's because the majority of black women are brown and dark-skinned, but that dark-skinned women are not as attractive, or that they're, you don't see as many, like I hear that a lot. You don't see as many, and this goes to the litmus test, right? So the litmus test is like, and I can't get around it because, I think, and maybe it's just a Northeast thing, the way that women are presented, when you turn on, Telemundo and Univision, and you always see these sexy, attractive women doing the weather and shit like that. But if I told a bunch of black men, I say, hey, we're going on the Latin night, they would think that there's going to be a whole bunch of bad bitches in there. And we know there's going to be some unattractive ones, some fat ones, or whatever. But they think that there's going to be a higher percentage of bad bitches in that space than if I said we're going to a black club. Then it's like, oh, there's going to be ratchets in there. There's going to be a bunch of fat women in there wearing shit they shouldn't wear. There's going to be a bunch of stinky weaves. There's going to be a bunch of women, with the brown gel. There'll be some pretty motherfuckers in there. But the problem is the idea that there won't be as many, as in the Latin club. And then you got the whole aspect of some people who feel like Latino women they're the perfect cross between white and black, right? You get that, which is still going to fall underneath the umbrella of colorism. Still going to fall underneath that. But what was I about to say about the Latinas? There was something I was about to say about the Latinas and how they're presented. Like, it's like if I asked you to close your eyes, right? And I said, okay, picture a Latina, right? You got her in your head. You pictured her. Okay, what is she wearing? You would be like, oh, she's got her heels on. She's got a tight black dress on, titties popping, all this other shit, makeup slamming, yada, 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 lip gloss popping, all that. But if I said, close your eyes and picture a sister, what do you picture? Do you picture her in the same outfit as the Latina? Or do you picture her looking like freaking Jill Scott in, what was her first introduction video? Long Walk. What was that? What was the name of that video? The one where she just is walking through the whole video until she confronts the woman that is sleeping with her man, right? And she snatches her wig off. That type of shit. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing sexy about that video. Even though I know some guys that think, Jill Scott is sexy. But again, you get into the bullshit where you get guys that like, yeah, I'm into natural women because, or earthy women and shit like that because, maintaining, women that are dolled up and stuff is, they don't want to have to do that. So they into these low maintenance women, right? And don't get it twisted. Like, it's a minefield for black women, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because you know me, I already addressed it quite a few times. I don't subscribe to the Madonna whore complex. I want to see black women dressed to the nines, looking sexy as fuck. I want to see that. I want to get the fucked up images of these women that are just homely out of my head. I want to see more of that. Right? But you get these guys, if a black woman's too sexy, they start splashing holy water all over the place. They start wanting to read scripture and shit like that. And some of these guys will be the same guy. Oh, black woman needs to be conservative and this, that, and the third. But then they out there chasing down spicy Latinas and shit, chicks, out here with their ass out. I'm like, come on, dude. So let me get this right. So yes, the black woman is supposed to be a homely wifey, but the Latina, she's the sexy sex pot that you fantasize about and that you get your rocks off about. Cap had a friend. This guy was married to a white woman, but all of his pornography was black women. And the guy acknowledged that he was fucked up. He's like, he could only masturbate to black women, but he married a white woman, only dated white women. Weirdest shit ever. So Cap's got, examples that, are beyond me because this shit was before my time. You know what I mean? But, with all this said, I feel that black women have some serious areas of improvement? Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. The weight, y'all got to bring the weight down. You know what I mean? Black women would have a better argument if they were out here and their A game, their shit was just slamming. You know what I mean? Like the fact that you have, and I mean, Divine said it. She said our mothers didn't teach us. The fact that like Six the Goddess does, makeup tutorials for every video that she does. Y'all talk about fathers not being in the home. What the hell's going on with mothers being in the home and not teaching their daughters how to beautify? Right? And then you get into the stupid shit of women running around. He doesn't deserve this. He doesn't deserve it. Okay, bitch, if you want to argue this, black man doesn't deserve this because he hasn't won a race war, well, then, bitch, you lose. Take the L. Accept the fact that you're going to lose against some of these others out here that do, take, what's the word that I'm looking for? That do take, their personal care and makeup and dolling themselves up seriously. Accept the fact that you're gonna lose against that. You're not gonna go out here and just be like butt ass naked, like just in stand in nothingness and think that you're gonna win against a woman that has like the accessories and the aesthetics and that whole less is more type of thing. I mean, they've already done studies like people like men don't want to see women completely naked. They want to see women in lingerie, in lace, in lace panties and heels and stockings and fishnets. I told you, my kryptonite, absolute kryptonite, fishnet stockings, black open-toed shoes, with just a tight black dress. This game over for me. It's game over for me. I don't care what we're doing. Dinner, going to movies, freaking expensive restaurant, violin playing in the background. all I'm thinking about is tearing that shit up. We probably won't even make it to the bedroom. Tear that shit up against the wall in the fucking hallway. You know what I mean? But that's me. That's me. You know, so, but I mean, man, I gotta go to the South to find that. And I do think that it's the attitude, there's a difference in different regions of the countries. The perceptions of black women is different in different regions of the countries. It's another factor. Because Amazing Lucas just did a video recently, and he's out there in LA. And LA is like Miami and shit. Because like in Miami, you know, and even in parts of the South, you know, you go around HBCU campuses and stuff like that, you go into Houston, you will see black women decked to the nines. And whatever thought you had in your mind about your sisters don't look good, if you're from the Northeast, that shit will quickly be extinguished. Because, you know, they get down. You know, and I think that, you know, to a degree, I'm thinking a lot of brothers in the Northeast, maybe we should exit the conversation. Because it is bad up here. And if y'all sisters don't believe us, if you want to argue with us, come to New York, come to Philadelphia, come to Baltimore, and look at how sisters are carrying themselves and look at what they're wearing. It ain't shit. Now, I don't know how, some of y'all may get out there in other parts of the country, you know, beyond the ones that I just named. You know, I can't speak for every state. I don't know what's going on in every state, but I'm telling you, the Northeast is pretty bad with it. It's pretty bad. It's pretty grimy. It's pretty it's pretty not pretty. You know, I mean to lay it out. You know, it's pretty fucked up. You know, so, you know, I'm just saying, I do know what cats are talking about. You know, when they talk about, you know, LA, Houston, Atlanta, Georgia, you know, those women will come correct, and you will see women that you just like, yes, give me some of that, like that sister that does the, you know, and she don't even have like the hellified body like that, but she's sexy as all get out. The chick that does the band dancing, like she's like the band girl. I forget what her name is. You know, she's on IG. You know, she be doing the freaking Southern band shit. She wanted like the dance girls in the bleachers. All that girl is sexy. I mean, she is just sexy. I mean, just oof. But I mean, do we see that every day? Do you see that walking around? I know I don't. You know, and you know, I could say in the Northeast, because you got to remember in the Northeast, you know, especially with the Latinas, and I think this is where a lot of it comes from. That's why you saw them women, you know, in the videos in like back in the early 2000s, in the J-Lo and all that, Puerto Ricans, huge Puerto Rican population, Union City, East Orange, you know, Dominicans, Washington Heights, Perth Amboy, right? That's where Vida Guerra is, you know. The woman that was in the video, some of y'all remember her from Black Man Magazine, but she was also in the Dave Chappelle skit, you know, with the pee on me shit, with the R. Kelly. Right? But I mean, these women, you know, I'm just saying, you know, not all of them, but see, it's that whole pound for pound sort of thing. And I'll be the first one to admit, I've been on the pound for pound thing since I came online. And I argue with people. We know. Yeah, it's like there's like, in other words, the pound for pound thing is almost like the same as what sisters say about black men that are financially stable and established and got their money and all that other stuff, right? Like pound for pound, white men have more resources or economically stable than black men. Pound for pound, right? Especially in major metropolitan areas. And the same thing applies to black women's beauty, in my opinion. I'm like, pound for pound. I'm like, you know, the freaking the white girls got you beat pound for pound. You know, the Hispanic girls got you beat pound for pound. I wish y'all would correct it. You know what I mean? But then you get into the woe is me crowd that wants to argue that, well, no matter what, even if I lose, you know, 50 pounds, y'all still ain't gonna want me. You know, like you get the women that go that route. And I'm saying, like, yeah, if a woman is a 4 and she loses weight, she might go to a 6, but, you know, that doesn't mean that she's going to become a 10. That doesn't mean that she might be in the running. That doesn't mean that she's going to win, and a lot of women don't want to hear that. They do not want to hear that, and like, I get it, but it's like, and that's another thing. That's why I'm saying the whole thing with the real litmus test is to say, why you need to state, like, what is a 10? Because the thing is like, here's the ultimate self-hate litmus test. Because once you get somebody to establish what a 10 is, then when another race of women walks in the room, you shouldn't be trying to get out of the car while the car is still moving. Oh my God, a Latina. And then you get out. No, it shouldn't happen. Like, even there's like some arguments that talk about, like, oh, I think black men, they just want to fuck dark-skinned women, but they're not trying to wife them up and trying to marry them. Like, or, that's why they leave them and shit like that. Like, no. If a dude smashes you out and then he dips, then yeah, you could say that. If a dude smashes you out on a one-night stand and you get pregnant and then he dips, okay, yeah, you could say that. But if you 2-3 babies in with a dude and then he leaves, chances are that's because, dude couldn't financially support you like he wanted to support you. You know what I mean? But when you have multiple children by somebody, you know what I mean? The idea, like, oh, he was just there to smash, he didn't find you attractive, he's out there fantasizing about that's bullshit. That is bullshit. And so, you got women trying to make these, we just never win no matter what argument, despite the fact that all these long, relationships are going on, all these babies, multiple babies are being made. And it reminds me of Pink Elephant when he made the video, and he was like, if I break up with you, and then I'm single for 2 years, and then I end up with a white woman after being 2 years of single, I didn't leave you for a white woman. Because this is me trying to say that, like, the next woman that you're with, he left me for that. Like, it's like, no, he didn't. He broke up with you, and then he was single for a very long time. Hell, you've moved on and you got with somebody else. And he's still single. And yet somehow it turns into, 9 months later, 2 years later, 5 years later, he left me for a white woman. Like, it's like, no. Cut the bullshit. But, I mean, it goes back to the video that Captain Solo did and even Pink Elephant's response, where Pink Elephant just said point blank. He was like, I didn't know that we were even questioning whether we found black women attractive or not. If motherfuckers don't even find them attractive, there's nothing to discuss. There's nothing to discuss. I mean, everything starts at finding them attractive. If you don't find them attractive, there is no, oh, I wish they would behave better or act better. That way, if they acted better, then I would get with them. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like you can't even say that at that point. Oh, I wish they did this better. I wish they did that better because, I really dig them. If you don't dig them at all, then them changing their behavior isn't going to fix anything. And unfortunately, I recognize that there's dudes out here that, I mean, they've never even dealt with black men, and black women like that, and yet they're saying, all these things about their behavior and everything because it's easy to attack. I know sisters that are like that. Some of these divestors are like that. You can hear it in their voice. Them black girls with that white girl valley voice. I'm like, bitch, I went to high school with your ass. You were out here trying to fuck with the white dudes that wouldn't fucking claim you. I saw that shit go down. You were trying to fuck with the basketball star and the football star, and half the time they didn't fucking claim you. And you didn't get what you wanted out of them. And then, the women are mad. Mad at black men because they couldn't get Brad or Chad or Grant Wellington III. And then the issue becomes, then they try to flip the argument and make it around how black men were never checking for them. It's like, chick, you were with Brad all the time. Don't sit there and talk about the motherfuckers wasn't checking for you. Actually, they were, but you weren't interested in them. You were interested in Brad and Chad. You know what I'm saying? I had one chick I had to tell that shit to. You know what I mean? She like, we had a little hookup session. We hooked up. You know what I mean? Then we went to a party, and she got up the next day in this, friggin' she had slept with the white guy. That was he was living in the house. You know what I mean? And that, whatever fire, whatever potential could have happened between her and I, hook it up. This was in college. whatever could have happened, that ended there. Like I was like, nah, yo, you wanted that motherfucker. And I already had like, we were both suburban black folks. I already had the feelings like she dug white guys more than she dug black guys. You know what I mean? I was just a black guy that wasn't, and you get this, as a black guy who grew up in the burbs, you get this a lot too from a lot of sisters. There's a lot of sisters that have this all black men are ghetto, and they have an inferiority complex about being black. And then if you're a black man and you're not quote unquote ghetto, then they act like you're good enough, right? Like you come from a decent background or whatever. But I'm like, but you still want Chad though. You still into Brad and Chad, you know what I mean? Like that's what, and Alex, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what you're into. You know what I mean? You're into Gavin. What other white name could I come up with? You're into Hunter, right? Like that's who you want. You ain't into black dudes, but again, I told you, I get women on the height, I get women on the muscles, right? I remember I was in a club one time, I had a sister say that to me. She was like, I don't usually date black men. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna be real. That between that and the freaking Caribbean woman that told me she don't date African Americans and that said it to my face. Those are really the only 2 times. I'll go with those 2 times. 2 times that it's essentially been said. And the chick wanted my number, and I wouldn't give it to her. Now, if I'm being honest, she was alright. She wasn't anything that I would have wanted to get at. She was cute, but she wasn't cute enough for me to want to get at her. So it was a 2-way street, but she was feeling me, and I didn't give her the number, but she was like, I don't normally get with black guys, and that was my exit. I was like, boom, I can leave right off on that tip. So I don't know, I get that shit from white girls too, like I guess I'm a little bit too clean cut, too pretty boy-ish in a way, and I get that. I get the I want a black guy, but I don't want a ghetto black guy type of vibes is what I give off. And I've won some and I've lost some because of it. Every woman does not go for that. It's not a one size fits all scenario over here, and I accept that. I am who I am. I'm not going to change who I am so I can adapt and transition and change for every girl out here. This is not authentic. It's not, it's whatever you call it, fake or whatever. It's just not real. And people can, be who you are, and you'll get way further with the women who are interested in who you are than trying to be something that you're not. That's always been my philosophy. But I do think that the perception, of black women currently is shit. It's shit. And like I said, I think there's areas of improvement for black women, the things that they need to work on. But I also recognize that there's men out here that, like they're so not interested. It's like, dude, why are you even in the conversation, man? You're not into them. And I also think that there's an aspect of where black men, there's an aspect where, it's like society says the white woman is better, the Latina is better. And especially for those guys, and I know black women don't want to believe it, but the guys that black women, ignored or were not interested in. And, when they, finally get somewhere and they're able to navigate, move around, attract, date other women and whatnot, when they finally get to that point, they kind of throw up, and sisters do the same thing. They throw up what society says. Well, society says this white woman on my arm has value. Society says this Latino on my arm has value. That's what society says. And so society says that, nana boo boo, I got this over here, and this is better than you. And so they're using like a societal diss, right, to throw it back at the black woman because the black woman made them feel some type of way about their rejection, in their former years or their adolescent years or their young adult years. And so they're trying to leverage society against the black woman. right? And again, black women will do the same thing. They'll leverage society against the black man. That's where all this, you must win a race war type of shit comes from. That's where all this, they control the Navy and the Air Force and the presidency and the banks and they have Fortune 500 companies and what do you got, black man? You see what I'm saying? And so, black women will throw that up. The divestors will throw that up. It's the same shit. I'm just saying it's the same shit. When the men do it and when the women do it, they're leveraging society in order to say, well, this has more value than your entire existence. This over here has more value than your entire existence, which is pretty fucking foul. It's foul. It's not something that somebody can improve or somebody can change, based off of, the greater society. And all of it can be, put underneath the umbrella of self-hatred, to whatever degree. Like I said, the funny thing about like self-hatred, like one of the things that I can't stand is like the degrees of self-hate. You know what I'm saying? Like the how much, like, in other words, if a man is dealing with you and then, he's the one that pumps you up full of a baby and all this other shit, and then he leaves and then gets with somebody else, another race woman or something like that, does some real foul shit, says some real foul shit. Yeah, that's first degree colorism, so to speak, right? But, to sit there and accuse colorism to guys that you weren't dealing with because you didn't want them, and you want to argue they didn't want you, and then you say, oh, that's colorism. I'm like that to me is like it's too much like Minority Report. It's like too much like, convicting somebody of a thought crime. I bet you think this way. You know what I mean? I'm like, you gonna charge that the same as the dude that pumped the chick up full of a baby and then dipped? I'm like, nah. I'm like, that's just me personally. I'm like, here we go with the thought crimes, and that just doesn't fly with me. But, again, I think that, and I don't know whether it's just because black men have transitioned away, the expansion of the light-skinned universe, some of the transitions that happened in the 90s. I don't know. You know what I mean? But, actually, hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, that's funny. That's funny as shit. I'm sitting there. I had to run in the convenience store, but I'm in the convenience store, and I'm like, I was talking to I don't know whether he's Arab or whatever. I don't know what the hell he is, but I was like, man, where you from, man? And he got this thick ass Arab accent. I'm like, man, where you from? I'm like, where did you grow up? He was like, oh, I wasn't born here. I was like, yeah, I know that. I can tell you weren't born here, but I'm like, you sound like you vibe around a lot of black people, like the way he was talking, I'm like, what you mean? What you know about what's good? You know what I mean? Like, what? I'm like, what black people were you hanging around? And then he was like, oh, yes, yes, I hung around, he told me the area that he used to work at, and I was like, oh, so a lot of black people came in and were patronizing the business and whatnot, and he was like, yeah. I was like, that, so you picked up the lingo. I'm like, I got it. I was like, okay, now it makes sense. That's funny. That's so funny. Because he really, like, his whole vibe, the way his voice sounds, is just real laid back. I was like, why is this dude giving me brother vibes, man? Why is this dude? And I was like, yeah, I'm like, you had to be hanging around black people, man. You had to be bullshitting with them and joking with them, and there's no way. There's just no way. Because he's not, I don't know, he wasn't like square like that. I just, that shit was funny. But anyway, sorry I got off topic. That was just we were just talking about that, just cracking up. I'm like, man, where the hell are you from, man? That's some funny shit. It's the subtle things. It's the subtle things that you pick up on. It's like, nah, man. Oh, that's so funny. That's funny because I actually took my parents with me to an Indian wedding, and one of the guy's brothers, he grew up in, what did they grow up in? I think they grew up in Brooklyn. And my mother was like, where did he grow up at? I was like, Brooklyn. I was like, why? He was like, he sounds like a black man. I was like, yeah, I know it. I know he does. It's kind of funny, but yeah, he's Pakistani, but he does sound like a black man. I was like, that is the funny thing about it. But yeah. Anyway, what was I talking about? The shit. I don't completely forgot. Damn, I don't completely forgot now. Anyway, I think I'm gonna end this video. I was about to wrap it up. I might come back to the subject later. I always do on these type of topics. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on it. But it's just something to consider. I think that brothers need to, I'm not telling you to silence black women, but I mean, seriously speaking, is it that hard to come up with black 10s? You could pick them up from anywhere. I mean, one of the brothers, in the comment section, he pulled up the Ellie Empress, the chick with the big ass titties on Instagram. He pulled her up. He said that she's a 10. Personally, she's not a 10 to me because she's a little bit boxy for me. I'm an hourglass man. It's the hourglass that gets me. I need the hourglass shape. That's what I'm a sucker for. And then he threw up, who's the chick that, I don't know whether she's African or not. She kind of looks like Amara La Negra. I know Amara La Negra is wearing like the Afro wig, but this woman has like a similar look, you know what I mean? And she like that woman that like walks on like the middle of the street, not the middle of the street, but she walks in New York and she's all dolled up, and they always showing pictures of her and white men breaking their necks when she walks by. Like, she just looks like she's completely overdone. You know what I mean? But, he said that she was a 10. And going back to that whole troll thing, like I said, I feel like I got these bots in my comment section because when it came to that Buffy the Body post, I'm like, give me a 10. I'm like, since you want to come in here and you want to talk about how, she's not this, she's not that. Okay, well, give me a 10. Give me a 10. And last time I checked, I even forwarded the shit to Cap. I was like, look at this comment right here. I was like, I think I got a fucking troll, man. This motherfucker over here. I'm like, you can come in and say Buffy the Body is a 5 out of 10, which we all know she's not a 5 out of 10. But then when I ask you, okay, mister, I want to give my unsolicited opinion. You know what I'm saying? Tell me what a 10 is. If you know what a 5 is, tell me what a 10 is. See, and again, if 10s only exist outside the black community, well, then you're just not in the sisters. I mean, that's just all it is. If all 10s exist outside of the black community, or if again, the whole choosing a black woman and she only wins against other black women, again, you're just not in the sisters. It can't be that. It can't be, oh yeah, this is a 10 right here, and then as soon as the white girl, the Asian girl, the Hispanic girl, the Arab girl walks in the room, all of a sudden you're ready to jump ship and trade up. Right? If you have that type of concept, then you don't really believe that she's a 10. Oh, she's only a 10 against other sisters. Right? That's not going to work. That's not going to work either. So I mean, just some things to consider so that we can weed past all of the bullshit, and even when it comes to black men, do some self-policing. You know what I mean? Don't get it twisted. I'm on the side of brothers when it comes to a lot of the areas of improvement that, black women need to make. You know what I mean? I'm like, nah, y'all are too damn big. 60% obesity, 80% overweight. Like, nah. What is that? And I'm saying black men are the most accepting when it comes to, size and variety and shit like that. I mean, hell, that's another, that contributes to another reason why all these other races, women, come flocking to black men, whenever, their men are like, nah. And I'm not just talking about, the women that are, that are fat. I'm talking about the women that are slim, thick, and just, they're too big for white men. I see this with the Koreans too. You know what I mean? If you notice, you go on Instagram and they got a bunch of thick ass Koreans that to Asians, Korean standards, you know, they're fat. They're just too damn fat. You know, and it's like, actually they're not. Like when you see them, you're like, wait, this is fat? Yes, in Korea this is fat. You know, it's like, and what ends up happening, you know, again, due to black men's promotion in the media, due to our you know, desire for thick women, you know, I mean, we end up being the refugee camp for all the women that just got a little bit too much going on, you know, for their race of men. So they come flocking over here. I remember I was at a bar one time. Let me tell you a story. I was at a bar one time. I don't know if I told this story already, but there was this white woman. She came up to me. She was cute too. I don't know why I think I was just in my anti-white woman mode. I get in these anti-white women modes. I haven't fucked with a white woman in years. You know what I mean? Because, you know, just, you know, all the shit we talk about, everything, just, you know, I'm like, I just struggle with the idea of them really being down. You know what I mean? You know, and I'm, you know, concerned about the community. She's not going to share my concerns. So that makes it difficult to, you know, view them, you know, in that light. But anyway, let me think. So, I was just about to say something about, dating white women and whatnot. But anyway, so this white girl, where I'm at the bar, and, you know, like, she was like, we're just talking, right? And it was like very early on in the conversation, she just blurts out, "I used to be fat." And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean you used to be fat? She was like, "I used to be fat." And I'm looking at her, you know, shapely ass white girl. And then she busts out a picture of her, you know, pulls out her phone, shows me a picture of her. She used to be big. And I mean, like, unshapely big. Right? And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, damn. You know what I mean? And then it kind of clicked with me. And, you know, again, I was still going through my phase because, you know, I don't like the idea of black men being, you know, other groups garbage men. So then it was like, oh, so let me get this right. So you was fucking with brothers and, you know, they were the only ones that accepted you. And so now you're only into black men sort of thing, which, you know, in the back of my mind, I was like offended by it. But then again, she had corrected all that. She lost the weight. So now she looked better than ever. You know, but, you know, I just kind of like, in the back of my mind, I kind of like low-key took issue with it. But no, she corrected the shit. And then I had to think about it later. I was like, nah, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Because, you know, one of the things that she said, you know, basically that, you know, black men were the only ones that she was romantically involved in when she was bigger. And now that she lost the weight and whatnot, now white guys want to talk to her. And the way that she feels is, you know, you didn't want me at my worst, so you can't have me at my best. And so she's just like, you know, all about black men, you know, at this point, even after losing the weight, you know, because it wasn't like she just lost the weight and didn't have a shape. Like, she lost the weight in the areas in which she needed to lose the weight. She lost the weight in her arms. She lost the weight around her neck. You know what I mean? She lost the weight in her stomach area, and then she still had hips. You know, it was crazy. It was like, damn, all that was underneath that. Like, that's crazy. Like, it was just crazy. You know, but why did I bring that point up? I forget why I brought that point up about about the acting as the refugee camp for all these big women and whatnot, you know. And it's so in my opinion, it adds to there being this sort of this pool, this environment, you know, that black women end up having to compete with, all because this didn't go on before. This did not go on before. Like black men were not the, you know, if any other race of woman, you know, was getting shot down by her group of men, black men were not the men that they were like, oh, I can attract brothers. You know, and again, that's a double-edged sword, because some of that shit, you know, they will try to bring over some bullshit. I'll be the first one to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when Cap told me the story about it was a fat ass white woman that tried to holler at him, and he shot her down. And he shot her down within earshot and within sight of a black woman who was big as hell too. And he had to politely inform the sister. He was like, hey, she was like, yes. She was like, it's so nice to see a brother, you know, not thirst after a white woman, not be interested in white women. This is like before the word thirst came into be. But she came up to Cap, was like, it's so nice to see a black man, you know, not be into white women or something like that, right? And Cap was like, yeah, and I ain't into big black women either. You know what I mean? Like he was just pissed. He was like, yo, first a fight with a fat white woman comes at me, tries to holler at her, shoot that shit down, and then his sister comes up thinking she's in just because she's black, trying to pull up on him too. He was like, nah, yo. He's like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? So again, these areas of these things do need to be corrected. And black women, if they corrected it, they would only have a stronger argument. You know what I mean? If there was a bunch of fucking sexy motherfuckers walking around, body, makeup slamming, outfit slamming, if there's a whole bunch of sexy women running around and black men were still like, no, I gotta go over the fence. You know what I mean? The black women will only have a stronger argument. You know what I mean? I don't see the advantage of them being like, oh, well, I'm not doing this for black men, because y'all wouldn't choose us anyway. So I'm going to what? Just stay fat, be unattractive, be overweight. I'm just going to continue down this path of obesity. Come on now. So anyway, that's all I got to say. For now. I got some other videos I want to post, but that's all I gotta say for now. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe. Brother sent me, he made a donation to my Cash App, and he was asking me about the UPS strike. I got a few things to say about it. I don't know all too much about it right at this moment. I mean, between the USP, and the Actors Guild or whatever it is. Nah, man, I'm telling you, people cannot make it. The video that I put on the community tab about the quiet quitting and that white guy's breakdown of that shit, this is 100% spot on. I mean, this is where the shit is going. You can't have a society where the average home is freaking, I heard 340,000, he said 430,000, whatever it is. And, the average income is, $40,000-$50,000. The math ain't mathing. You got a whole society of people that, it's like, what's the point if I can't make moves, if I can't do things? And this is why everything is transitioned to this gig economy, and people are trying to do, other things online to make money. That's why they're doing that. But to have a whole society where everybody has their own LLC and everybody is competing, in online spaces to make money. And, again, this is why you have colleges that are in decline. This is why you have, the job market that's in decline. They don't want to deal with the bosses and everything. I mean, even when it comes to like companies and recruiters and stuff, they don't even want to, they want everybody to be a temp. They want everybody to be, to not bring them on board, full time with benefits and healthcare and dental and all that stuff that you need for a family. And so if men don't have the tools and the resources to start families, they don't start families. If they're responsible, they won't participate. And, that's a bad combination for society. But, I already kind of made another video, like kind of covering it and whatnot. I brought it up. It's all the same stuff. Anytime you have a strike, it's because there's an imbalance of power between the workers and employers. And this society and all these sort of, conservative ideals, it's not helpful. That the pendulum has swung too far in one direction. And, like I said, sooner or later, they're going to break the camel's back, and it's going to be blood in the streets, and it's going to be a revolution, little skirmishes, pockets of violence here and there, acts of terrorism, shit being blown up. It will happen, because you cannot have that many men, that cannot, participate in the American dream. It started with the black community. Now it's spilling into the white community. And see, the thing is they're the wrong ones to fuck with, because they got way more entitlement than we do, because they're white Americans, so that means something, right? They're not used to being hit with the lazy bat, so I'll probably make a whole video about that. But anyway, that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.